Captain Aaron Keene stood at the edge of the grand diplomatic platform, the hum of the Silistara station vibrating faintly beneath his boots. The station floated among a cluster of distant stars, a hub where countless species of the galaxy met to trade, negotiate, and sometimes to judge. Aaron had been through many first contacts in his career, but today felt different. The air was thick with expectation, and his instincts told him something extraordinary was about to unfold. The Virith delegation had arrived in a glittering procession. The Virith were a species known for their astonishing beauty, symmetry, and grace. They had 6 arms, each lined with delicate membranes that shimmered in the light. Their skin ranged from pale sapphire to deep violet, and their eyes glowed with colors that humans had no names for. Every movement they made was precise, almost musical. In the past, the Virith had been both allies and competitors in human exploration, but their customs were strict and their judgments merciless. Aaron watched as the elders of the Virith stepped forward. Their heads were crowned with intricate ridges, and their voices rang with an authority that made even the most seasoned diplomats pause. He had read about their tradition before arriving. When offering a mate from their species to another, they judged not only capability but appearance. Those deemed unworthy, they discarded without a second thought. The assembly fell silent as the eldest among them raised a slender arm, and a platform lifted slowly from the shadowed side of the chamber. On it stood the being they had brought. Aaron's eyes widened slightly, but not with fear or revulsion. The alien before him did not look like the others. Her skin was a muted gray with irregular patterns. Her limbs were uneven, one arm slightly longer than the other, and her movements were cautious, almost hesitant. Her large eyes blinked at the crowd, reflecting the station's pale lights. A ripple of whispers spread through the crowd. Some humans shifted uncomfortably. Even the Virith delegation murmured among themselves, exchanging looks of disbelief. This was not what they expected. This female, whom they presented as a gift to humanity, defied every conventional standard of beauty in the galaxy. Aaron did not hesitate. He had seen enough of the galaxy to know that appearances were often misleading. The first moment he saw her posture, straight, dignified, and calm despite the eyes of dozens of species upon her, he knew something essential about her. Worth was not measured by symmetry or glow or flawless skin. Worth was measured in courage, intelligence, and the ability to rise above judgment. "I accept her," Aaron said firmly, stepping forward. The words cut through the whispers like a blade. There was a collective gasp. Some of the Virith leaned forward, their faces twisting with disbelief. Even some humans blinked, unprepared for such a confident declaration. The female alien's eyes widened slightly, but not with fear. A subtle curve of recognition crossed her face. She seemed to sense what Aaron understood, that she was more than what her outward appearance suggested and that he saw it. The elders spoke in their resonant tones, a mixture of surprise and skepticism. "You do not hesitate, human. She is not of the beauty we expect." "How can you accept her so quickly?" Aaron met their gaze steadily. "I do not measure worth by skin or symmetry. I measure it by what someone can do, by who they are inside. She has already shown courage simply by standing here. That is enough for me." The chamber fell silent again, heavier this time. No one expected this. Many species had tried to interact with the Virith, but most had stumbled at their rigid traditions. Yet here was a human, standing calmly in defiance of expectation, and he was not alone. The alien female, her name yet unknown, stepped down from the platform, her movements careful but assured. She had been tested silently, and she had passed simply by being herself. Aaron extended his hand. "I am Captain Aaron Keene. I will learn your name and I will honor it." For a moment she did not respond. Then she lowered her own hand, meeting his gaze. "I am Kivara," she said, her voice soft but clear. There was no trembling, no hesitation, only the quiet confidence of someone who had lived long enough to know their own strength. The murmurs in the chamber grew louder. Humans whispered to one another, unsure of what to say. The Virith delegates muttered among themselves, some in shock, others in silent respect. The elders, however, remained impassive, studying Aaron and Kavara carefully. Their judgment had not yet been made. They were not accustomed to humans acting with such decisive clarity. Over the next few hours, Aaron guided Kavara through the formalities of the station. He introduced her to the other species, explained basic human customs, and helped her navigate the zero-gravity corridors. Every interaction was an opportunity to demonstrate trust, patience, and understanding. Kavara observed quietly, her large eyes scanning the details of the station, noting the subtle behaviors of each species, their unspoken rules, and the way humans managed chaos with a mix of intuition and improvisation. Aaron found himself explaining things he had never verbalized before, how humans often relied on empathy and humor to resolve conflict, how they valued ingenuity even when methods were unconventional. Kavara listened intently, occasionally tilting her head, absorbing every nuance. Aaron realized that this exchange was already teaching him as much as he was teaching her. The galaxy was larger and more complex than any one species could understand, and in Kavara, he saw a bridge to that complexity. As the day wore on, Aaron and Kavara found a quiet corner of the station, overlooking a cluster of distant stars. "Do they always judge so harshly?" Kavara asked, her voice soft, almost wistful. Aaron nodded. "Among some species, yes. The Virith are proud and exacting. They judge based on what they see, not always on what is true. But we humans, we have our own flaws. I try to see beyond them, and I try to see the truth in people." Kavara considered this, her eyes reflecting the distant suns. "I am not like the others," she said. "I know it. They expected me to fail or to be rejected." Aaron smiled gently. "I already knew you would not fail. The rest, they just need to catch up." For the first time since arriving at the station, Kavara allowed herself a small, genuine smile. It was not the smile that would win contests of beauty, but it was warm, honest, and quietly powerful. Aaron felt a sense of relief and affirmation. In this moment, appearance no longer mattered. What mattered was courage, understanding, and trust. As night fell over the ShortStories station, the platform lights casting soft glows across the hull, Aaron and Kavara walked side by side. Around them, the murmurs of the station continued, some skeptical, some curious, some admiring, but neither of them paid attention to it. They were beginning a partnership that would challenge conventions, defy expectations, and prove that humanity's greatest strength was seeing value where others saw none. By the time the stars outside the observation window began to sparkle with distant light, Aaron had made a silent promise to Kavara. He would never waver in his trust, never falter in his respect, and never judge her by the standards of those who could not understand. Kavara, in turn, felt a flicker of hope she had not known in her long life among the Virith. Here was someone who already knew her worth, without condition, without hesitation. And in that quiet corner of the station, amid the endless expanse of space, two beings from different worlds began a journey that would not only test their courage but would redefine what it meant to see and truly understand another life. The galaxy outside was vast, indifferent, and often harsh. But inside that small observation chamber, humanity's capacity for empathy and insight shone brighter than any distant star. And Aaron, glancing at Kavara's steady gaze, knew that this was only the beginning. The whispers of doubt would come. The judgments of others would follow. But Aaron and Kavara were ready. They had already crossed the first threshold, seeing the truth in each other when the world refused to. And that, Aaron thought with a quiet certainty, was stronger than any weapon, any negotiation, or any tradition in the stars. The days that followed were unlike any Aaron Keane had experienced in his years as a space explorer. The Solistara station, normally bustling with predictable routines, now seemed alive with anticipation, curiosity, and quiet tension. Everyone, humans and aliens alike, watched the interactions between him and Kavara with careful eyes. Yet Aaron and Kavara moved as if the whispers did not exist, walking through corridors, performing tasks, and learning about each other's worlds with remarkable ease. Kavara's first steps aboard the station had been hesitant, almost mechanical, but Aaron noticed a spark in her eyes that told him she was observing everything, calculating possibilities, and understanding her new environment. Every stair, every airlock, every panel she passed was noted, every habit of the humans she could mimic or adapt to was studied. But she did not rush herself. She moved carefully, respecting the station's rhythm. Erin decided that her first lesson would not be in human technology or language, but in human perspective. "The station may seem overwhelming," he said one morning as they watched cargo ships dock, "but everything has its place. Humans rely on trust and communication, not just machines to keep order." Kavara tilted her head. "Trust, even with strangers," Erin chuckled softly. "Especially with strangers. Humans survive by working together, even when we don't always agree. Sometimes more than anything, we survive by understanding each other, even across differences." For Kavara, this was a revelation. In her world, the Vrith measured everything by efficiency and logic. Beauty and skill were predetermined and rigid. Mistakes were punished and deviation was frowned upon. But here, with Aaron, mistakes were tolerated if they were honest. Curiosity was encouraged, and kindness, even small gestures, was seen as strength. Over the next week, Aaron began teaching Kavara practical human skills. They started with simple tasks, like navigating the station's maintenance corridors and handling tools for minor repairs. Kavara's initial attempts were awkward. Her long fingers were not suited for the compact human tools, and her timing was slightly off. She dropped wrenches, misaligned panels, and occasionally tripped over airlock thresholds. But Aaron never criticized her. Instead, he corrected gently, offering tips and encouragement. "You see," he said one afternoon, adjusting a panel she had misaligned, "it's not about getting it perfect the first time. It's about learning, adapting, and trying again. Every human, myself included, has dropped more tools than we'd like to admit." Kavara's large eyes flicked up at him, a mixture of curiosity and understanding forming. "In my world, failure is unacceptable. I am not used to this." Aaron smiled. "Then you are learning faster than you realize. Accepting failure is a human strength, not a weakness. It helps us improve, innovate, and survive in ways that pure logic cannot." Beyond practical skills, Aaron introduced her to human social habits. They sat together in the communal dining hall, sharing food, laughter, and stories. Aaron explained the cultural importance of humor, showing how small jokes and light-hearted teasing could ease tension. Kavara watched him carefully, trying to replicate expressions and tones, and sometimes succeeding in ways that made Aaron laugh so hard he had to lean against the table. One evening, as they shared a simple meal of bread and synthesized fruit, Kavara spoke in a tone that carried both curiosity and hesitation. "Humans are strange. You seem so fragile physically, yet you handle the weight of emotions and decisions with persistence. You laugh in danger and you find joy even when conditions are difficult." Aaron raised an eyebrow. "Strange, maybe, but that persistence, that laughter, it's what makes humans strong. You could have been watching the reactor controls all day, calculating for every error, but instead you joined me for dinner. That matters." Kavara paused, considering this. In the Vrith way of thinking, efficiency was paramount. Human behavior often seemed inefficient, even reckless. Yet she could see that beneath these habits lay resilience, ingenuity, and connection. She felt the first stirrings of admiration for the species that had accepted her without hesitation. As the days progressed, Erin noticed subtle changes in Kavara's behavior. Her movements became more fluid. Her confidence grew. She began anticipating tasks before he instructed her, demonstrating a level of intuition that surprised even him. During one exercise in the engineering bays, she corrected a minor misalignment in a docking interface before Erin could step in. "You see that," he said afterward, smiling. "You're already adapting faster than most humans could." Kivara's large eyes sparkled with something between pride and amusement. "Perhaps I am learning, not only from you but from the humans themselves. There is flexibility here I did not anticipate." But learning was not without its challenges. Other humans, initially skeptical of Kivara, treated her with quiet suspicion. They whispered about her appearance, her odd movements, and the strange shape of her eyes. Kivara, however, did not react with anger or shame. She observed quietly, as she had learned from Erin, and responded with patience and focus. Erin noticed these interactions and took the time to teach her another human lesson: the importance of patience and composure in the face of judgment. "People judge what they cannot understand," he explained. "It's natural even if it's unfair. Your task is not to change them immediately but to show them who you are through action and integrity. They will notice eventually." Kivara nodded slowly. "And if they do not?" Erin smiled gently. "Then you focus on what matters, the people who do see. Those are the ones who count." The bond between them grew stronger with each passing day. They spent hours in the observation deck, watching the stars, and Erin taught her how to recognize different celestial formations, meteor clusters, and the paths of distant ships. Kivara, in turn, shared insights from her VRITH training, showing Erin perspectives he had never considered. She could calculate gravitational shifts, anticipate mechanical stress on the station, and suggest optimizations that humans had overlooked. Together, they began to form a partnership that combined human intuition with alien precision. The other species on the station began to notice. Whispers of surprise turned into curiosity, and curiosity slowly shifted into respect. Kivara's uniqueness, once judged harshly, started to be seen as an asset. Erin had always known this, and now others were beginning to see it too. One afternoon, as they worked on calibrating a communication relay, Kivara paused, her expression thoughtful. "Captain, do humans always trust so easily?" Erin adjusted a lever and looked at her. "Not always. Trust is earned, not given freely. But I trust you because I've seen what you can do and I've seen how you handle yourself. That's enough for me." Kivara considered this. "Then trust is not about appearances." Erin nodded. "Exactly. It's about what's inside, about actions, courage, and understanding. That's why I accepted you without hesitation. You had nothing to prove except to be yourself." For the first time, Kivara allowed herself to smile fully, the corners of her mouth lifting in a way that seemed natural rather than forced. The other humans noticed, and some could not hide their surprise. She was unlike any alien they had encountered, not because of what she looked like, but because of the quiet strength she exuded. As the days passed, the station faced small challenges that tested their growing teamwork. Minor equipment malfunctions, sudden communication delays, and unexpected docking complications all arose, but Erin and Kivara handled them with calm efficiency. Where humans might panic, Kivara's calculations offered clarity. Where Kivara might hesitate due to unfamiliarity, Erin's intuition guided her. Together, they solved problems that would have taken larger teams hours to address. Through these shared experiences, Kivara began to understand humans in a way few outsiders ever did. She saw their humor, their resilience, their creativity, and most importantly, their capacity for empathy. She realized that while humans could be unpredictable, Their unpredictability was paired with courage and adaptability that no species could match. Aaron, in turn, came to understand Kivara's perspective more deeply. He saw the value of patience, observation, and careful analysis, qualities that humans sometimes overlooked in their rush to act. Together, they were more than the sum of their parts. Together, they were a force that could bridge worlds, connect species, and challenge the rigid conventions of both human and Virith societies. Late one evening, as they sat in the observation deck watching a distant cluster of glowing gas clouds, Kivara spoke softly. "Captain, I am beginning to understand. You did not accept me because I am beautiful or perfect or like the others. You accepted me because I am capable, because I exist, and that makes me stronger than I thought I could be." Aaron reached out, gently placing a hand on hers. "You've always been capable, Kivara. I only saw it sooner than others. The rest will catch up in time." She looked at him, her large eyes reflecting the distant stars. "Then perhaps there is hope for your species too. That humans can see beyond appearances as I am learning to do myself." Aaron smiled, a quiet warmth in his chest. "Hope is what drives humans. It's what lets us survive, explore, and build connections in places others deem impossible. And you're part of that now." For Kivara, those words were a revelation. She had always been measured, judged, and underestimated. But here, with Aaron, she had found a partner who not only saw her worth but celebrated it. The Virith standards of beauty and perfection, rigid and unforgiving, seemed suddenly narrow and incomplete. She realized that true value lay in courage, intelligence, adaptability, and trust, qualities she and Aaron shared in abundance. And so, day by day, task by task, lesson by lesson, Kivara and Aaron built a partnership that defied expectations. They learned from each other, taught each other, and quietly began to reshape the perceptions of everyone around them. The whispers of doubt still lingered, but they were drowned out by actions, accomplishments, and the undeniable strength of mutual respect. In a galaxy that often judged too quickly and measured worth too narrowly, Aaron and Kivara were creating a new example. They were proof that courage, understanding, and integrity mattered more than appearance. They were proof that humans, despite their flaws, could recognize value where others could not. And for Kivara, they were proof that she belonged, not by conforming to standards of beauty, but by embracing her own strength, intellect, and uniqueness. And as the stars twinkled silently outside the observation deck, Aaron thought quietly to himself, "This is only the beginning. Kivara is more than I expected, and together we will show the galaxy what humanity, and what she can truly do." The morning began like any other aboard Solistara station, with the gentle hum of engines and distant chatter drifting through the corridors. But Aaron Keene felt a subtle tension in the air, a hint that the day would test everything he and Kivara had learned together. The station's communications officer approached, her expression taut with worry. "Captain Keene," she said, her voice steady despite the urgency in her eyes. "We have a situation in the reactor core. Energy levels are fluctuating beyond acceptable limits. If we don't stabilize it quickly, several sectors could lose power." Aaron's mind went immediately to action. He had faced mechanical failures before, but he had learned that crises often revealed not just technical skill but the true nature of character. He looked at Kivara, who was observing quietly, her large eyes taking in every detail. "We'll need to work together," he said. "I'll handle the physical operations and you guide me through the calculations. We'll need precision and focus. Are you ready?" Kivara nodded without hesitation. "I am ready, Captain. Let us proceed." They moved through the station corridors, their steps measured and purposeful. The reactor chamber was massive, filled with the soft blue glow of the energy conduits. Panels blinked with warnings, and the air carried a faint metallic scent. Humans and Virith technicians stood at a distance, unsure how to intervene. The moment was tense, One wrong move could cascade into a major power failure. Aaron quickly assessed the situation. The energy flow was unstable, fluctuating between levels that could overheat or shut down entire sections of the station. He could manipulate the conduits physically, but he needed Kivara's guidance to understand the complex calculations governing the flow. "Kivara, what do you see?" he asked, positioning himself near the main control panel. Kivara leaned forward, her fingers hovering over the holographic interface. "The energy distribution is uneven," she said. "You are trying to balance the output linearly, but it requires a simultaneous feedback adjustment. Allow me to guide you." Aaron adjusted his stance, giving her the space to direct the operation. He had learned that her calculations were unlike human methods. They combined logic, observation, and intuition in ways he could not have predicted. "Shift the secondary conduit by 15 degrees, she instructed calmly. "Then reroute 20% of the power through the tertiary stabilizer. Timing must be precise, too early or too late, and the system will reject it." Aaron followed her instructions carefully, his hands moving swiftly but deliberately. Sparks of light danced across the control panels as energy levels began to stabilize. A murmur of awe spread among the humans watching. The precision of Kivara's calculations, combined with Aaron's decisive action, was producing results no single operator could have achieved alone. As they worked, Aaron could feel the weight of the station on their shoulders. One misstep could result in cascading power failures, potentially leaving entire sections without life support. But Kivara's calm presence steadied him, reminding him that collaboration, not panic, was the path to success. "Redirect the tertiary flow to compensate for the loss in the northern sector," Kivara instructed. "Do it gradually. Monitor the feedback loop closely." Aaron nodded. "Understood." He adjusted the controls, and for a moment the energy readings wavered, then settled into a stable rhythm. A sense of relief flickered through him, though he remained focused. The station's observers, both human and Virith, began to lean forward. Many had underestimated the value of Kivara, judging her by appearance alone. Now they could see her intellect, her patience, and her remarkable ability to guide complex systems under pressure. Aaron noticed the subtle change in their expressions, from doubt to cautious respect. "Captain," Kivara said, her voice steady, "there is one final adjustment required. You must synchronize the primary conduits with the secondary feedback loop. The timing window is narrow, less than 10 seconds. Aaron's pulse quickened, but he did not hesitate. He had faced situations like this before, but never with guidance that required trust across species. He followed her lead, adjusting the conduits in precise increments. Kivara's instructions were exact, her calculations flawless. With a final adjustment, the reactor stabilized. The warning lights dimmed, and the hum of balanced energy filled the chamber. A collective sigh of relief rose from the onlookers. Humans clapped, not out of habit, but out of genuine admiration. Even the Virith technicians exchanged glances, their previous skepticism fading. Aaron allowed himself a brief smile before turning to Kivara. "We did it," he said, the words carrying both relief and pride. Kivara's eyes softened, and for the first time she allowed a small smile of satisfaction. "Yes, Captain, together we have succeeded. Your actions complemented my calculations perfectly." The recognition of their teamwork spread quickly through the station. Whispers of admiration turned into conversations about the unusual partnership. Humans marveled at Kivara's insight and precision, while aliens who had once judged her appearance began to realize that value could not be measured superficially. Later in the observation deck, Aaron and Kivara sat side by side, looking out at the stars that stretched endlessly into the void. The crisis had passed, but its lessons remained. "You handled that calmly," Kivara said. "Even under pressure, you did not panic." "Humans are stronger than I imagined." Aaron shrugged modestly. "We have to be. Space doesn't wait for hesitation, but so are you. Your calculations were incredible. I could not have done it alone. Kivara considered this. I have observed humans for years, but seeing it in action, it is different. You rely not only on intellect, but on instinct, emotion, and trust. That combination, it is powerful. Aaron nodded. It is, and it works best when we work together. That's the lesson I've learned from you as much as you from me. Their bond deepened that evening as they shared stories of past missions, failures, and moments of unexpected courage. Aaron recounted tales of human explorers who had survived impossible odds through determination and creativity. Kivara listened, fascinated, occasionally interjecting with insights from her own species' history. She spoke of Vrith explorers who relied entirely on logic, whose victories were precise but often cold and lacking the human element of empathy and adaptability. Aaron realized that Kivara's respect for humans was growing, just as his admiration for her was deepening. She was no longer simply the ugliest alien presented by the Vrith elders. She was a partner, an equal in intellect and courage, and someone whose presence challenged every shallow judgment he had ever seen others make. In the following days, they continued to work together, addressing smaller malfunctions and assisting with interspecies collaborations. Each task further demonstrated the synergy between human intuition and Kivara's alien insight. The station's inhabitants began to approach them for advice, guidance, and assistance, recognizing that this unusual pairing had achieved what many could not. Even the Vrith elders, who had initially questioned Aaron's judgment, began to observe them with quiet curiosity. Their conversations were measured, respectful, and tinged with acknowledgement that perhaps the human captain's perspective had merit beyond what they had assumed. Kivara, once considered flawed by her own species' standards, was now recognized as invaluable, not for beauty, but for capability, wisdom, and courage. One evening, as they prepared for a routine maintenance inspection, Kivara paused and spoke softly. Captain, in your world, humans are judged by many things: appearance, strength, rank. Yet you judge by ability and heart. That it is different. It is admirable. Aaron smiled, placing a reassuring hand on hers. We make mistakes, of course, but we try to see what others miss. And I saw you, Kivara, that's all it took. Kivara's eyes shimmered with quiet emotion. Then perhaps I understand the lesson you have given the galaxy without words. That worth is not what is seen, but what is done, what is endured, and how one acts. Aaron nodded. Exactly. And together, we show it in action, not just words. As the station moved through its orbit and the stars outside rotated slowly in silent patterns, Aaron and Kivara felt a renewed sense of purpose. The reactor crisis had tested them, not just in skill, but in trust, patience, and collaboration. It had proven that human adaptability and courage, when paired with insight and precision from another species, could solve problems that neither could tackle alone. They had not only stabilized a reactor, they had stabilized perceptions, challenged biases, and begun to teach everyone around them a lesson that transcended species. The whispers of doubt and judgment that had followed Kivara since her arrival were fading, replaced by recognition and respect. And in that quiet, luminous moment on the observation deck, Aaron thought to himself, the galaxy underestimates humans. They underestimate Kivara. But together we are unstoppable, not because of strength or beauty, but because we see, understand, and trust each other where others cannot. Kivara's large eyes met his, reflecting the distant stars and the quiet confidence she had gained. Captain, I am beginning to see that partnership is more than cooperation. It is trust, respect, and courage combined. And perhaps that is the true measure of value, not perfection. Aaron nodded, feeling the truth of her words. It is. And the galaxy will learn it, one step at a time. The night passed peacefully on ShortStories station, the reactor humming steadily, the corridors quiet and the stars glowing silently outside. But Aaron and Kavara knew that challenges lay ahead. More crises, more judgments, more opportunities to demonstrate that the strength of humanity and the insight of another species could reshape expectations across the galaxy. And as they prepared for the next day, they did so with quiet confidence, knowing that together, they had already proven more than anyone could have imagined. Their partnership was no longer a curiosity. It was a beacon, a demonstration that courage, trust, and understanding were more powerful than appearances, prejudices, or convention. Days turned into weeks aboard the Solistara station, and life began to settle into a new rhythm. The reactor crisis had passed, and the station functioned smoothly under the watchful guidance of its crew. Yet, despite the apparent calm, the presence of Aaron Keene and Kavara continued to draw attention. The whispers that had followed Kavara since her arrival had evolved, from doubt and judgment to curiosity and admiration. She moved through the corridors now with a quiet confidence, no longer the subject of pity or scorn, but of respect. Aaron observed her one morning as she navigated a narrow maintenance corridor, balancing perfectly despite the zero-gravity adjustments. Her movements were precise, almost graceful, yet infused with an individuality that could not be imitated. He felt a quiet pride, knowing he had seen this potential before anyone else. It was a reminder of why he had not hesitated when the Virith elders presented her to him. Today, however, promised to be different. The Virith elders had summoned both of them to the Central Council chamber, a place reserved for high-stakes deliberation and ceremonial recognition. Aaron knew that this meeting would not only test Kavara's place among her own people, but also challenge the perceptions of everyone who had ever doubted them. As they entered the chamber, a hush fell over the assembly. The Virith elders, their intricate ridges catching the soft light, sat in elevated seats, observing the two calmly. Other delegates from various species filled the chamber, their expressions a mix of curiosity, respect, and barely concealed surprise. Aaron stepped forward, placing a reassuring hand near Kavara's shoulder. "Remember," he whispered, "you don't need their approval to know your worth. You've already proven it every day." Kavara nodded subtly, her large eyes steady. "I understand, Captain. But recognition is still meaningful." The eldest elder rose slowly, his voice resonating through the chamber. "Captain Aaron Keene, Kavara of the Virith, you have drawn our attention. It is clear that your cooperation has not only stabilized the Solistara station, but has demonstrated qualities beyond what we anticipated from humans or Virith alike. However, our traditions demand acknowledgement and judgment. What say you to the actions you have taken together?" Aaron stepped forward confidently. "We acted out of necessity and out of understanding. Kavara and I relied on each other's strengths, combining human intuition and alien insight. What we accomplished is not about tradition or beauty. It is about capability, trust, and courage. That is what should be recognized." A murmur ran through the chamber. The Virith elders exchanged glances, the eldest leaning forward. "And you, Kavara, how do you view these actions? Were they not contrary to the expectations of your species?" Kavara lifted her chin, her voice calm but clear. "Captain Keene saw me for who I am, not what I appear to be. I have acted with my own mind, my own skill, and my own judgment. Together, we have shown that collaboration, respect, and understanding transcend appearances, tradition, and expectation." Silence followed, heavier this time, as every observer absorbed her words. Then the eldest elder spoke again. "You have challenged the conventions of both your people and ours. You have demonstrated the value of perspective, courage, and partnership. The Council recognizes your actions as exemplary." A ripple of astonishment spread through the chamber. Humans whispered among themselves, astonished at the formal recognition. The Virith delegates leaned forward, some nodding slowly, others exchanging glances of admiration. The concept that Kivara, once considered flawed, could achieve such respect within her own species, and alongside a human, was revolutionary. The elder continued, his tone softer now. Let it be known that Kivara, whose appearance was once judged by superficial standards, is recognized for her intellect, skill, and character. Captain Aaron Keene, who saw beyond appearances and trusted where others hesitated, is recognized for his wisdom and courage. Your partnership serves as a model for all species in the galaxy. Kivara blinked slowly, absorbing the weight of the declaration. Aaron placed a hand gently on hers, offering silent support. "You've done it," he whispered, "not for recognition but for showing the truth." And now they see it too. The ceremony continued with quiet formalities, but the impact had already spread. Delegates approached them, asking questions, offering congratulations, and seeking advice on collaboration. Kivara's intelligence and capability were celebrated, her appearance no longer the focus, and Aaron's steadfast trust in her became a symbol of humanity's potential. Later, in the observation deck, Kivara spoke softly, almost to herself. "I have spent my life being measured by what is seen, but now I understand. True value is measured by action, courage, and trust, and Captain Keene, you have shown me that humans, too, can recognize what is invisible to the eye." Aaron smiled. "We all have lessons to learn, Kivara. Today, you've shown the galaxy that worth is more than surface deep. And humans, we've learned from you, too. Patience, observation, precision. You've taught me to see even better than I thought possible." A quiet warmth filled the observation deck. The stars outside glimmered in silent patterns, and Aaron realized that their journey was far from over. Recognition was not the end. It was a milestone. Their work together would continue, reshaping perspectives, building alliances, and proving that humanity, when guided by courage and empathy, could achieve extraordinary things. The following weeks brought new opportunities for demonstration. Aaron and Kivara were assigned to lead interspecies workshops on problem-solving, communication, and collaboration. Delegates from dozens of species participated, observing the duo as they navigated simulations of emergencies, ethical dilemmas, and logistical challenges. Every task reinforced the lessons they had already embodied: trust, adaptability, empathy, and combined intellect. During one exercise, Kivara guided a team of V-Rith and human engineers through a simulated power outage. Aaron facilitated human intuition and quick improvisation, while Kivara coordinated calculations and precision adjustments. The participants marveled at how seamlessly their different skills complemented one another. By the end of the simulation, even the most skeptical V-Rith delegates acknowledged that appearances and assumptions could no longer define competence. One evening, after the workshops, Aaron and Kivara sat on the station's observation balcony. The lights of distant star clusters glimmered like scattered jewels. Kivara turned to Aaron, her voice thoughtful. "Captain, I now see, your species' strength lies not only in physical or intellectual capability, but in the ability to trust and empathize." "That is rare among the stars," Aaron nodded. "It's true. Humans survive in ways others often underestimate. We adapt, we endure, and we learn from one another. And sometimes we see value where others cannot." Kivara's large eyes met his, reflecting the distant galaxies. "And you saw me. Not what I appeared to be, but what I could contribute. That changes everything." Aaron smiled quietly. "It does, and it's why I never hesitated, because I already knew you." As the days passed, news of their accomplishments spread across the sector. Other stations requested their guidance, and species previously hesitant to cooperate began seeking joint projects. Kivara's reputation grew, not as an anomaly, but as a symbol of intelligence, courage, and integrity. Aaron's steadfast trust in her became a benchmark for human empathy and foresight. Yet, despite all the attention, the duo remained grounded. They focused on learning, teaching, and problem-solving, never allowing recognition to overshadow the purpose of their partnership. They explored new areas of the station, tested experimental technologies, and continued their shared lessons in both human and Vrith methods. One day, as they prepared for another delegation meeting, Kivara paused. "Captain, I have realized beauty, tradition, and judgment, these are transient. What remains is capability, courage, and understanding. That is what truly endures." Aaron nodded. "Exactly. And together, we've proven that these qualities can bridge worlds, species, and expectations. That's why the galaxy will remember us, not for looks, not for titles, but for what we have done together." The council chamber summoned them once more, this time to celebrate their partnership with a formal recognition of alliance. Humans, Vrith, and delegates from other species filled the space. The Vrith elders presented them with ceremonial emblems, symbols of unity, respect, and shared achievement. It was not a trophy, not a reward, but a testament, a reminder that what mattered most could not be judged by superficial standards. Aaron and Kivara accepted the recognition humbly. Aaron placed a hand on hers, a silent promise of continued collaboration and mutual respect. Kivara returned the gesture with quiet confidence, the culmination of weeks of trust, lessons, and shared experiences. When the ceremony concluded, they stepped onto the observation balcony once more. The stars stretched endlessly into the void, and a soft wind from the station's ventilation system rustled past them. Kivara turned to Aaron. "Captain, I am beginning to understand the galaxy not only by what I see but by what I feel and trust, and for that I thank you." Aaron smiled, his gaze following the path of a distant ship gliding through the void. "Kivara, you have taught me as much as I have taught you. And together, we have shown everyone that value is not what is seen, but what is understood, trusted, and acted upon." In that quiet moment, they realized the truth of their journey. The Vrith elders, the human observers, even the whispers of doubt from distant corners of the galaxy, they were all part of a larger lesson. Humanity, with courage and empathy, could shine brighter than any superficial measure. And Kivara, once labeled ugly by standards that mattered little, had become a symbol of intelligence, capability, and the power of being true to oneself. Aaron reached for her hand, their fingers interlacing. "The galaxy will try to define us by appearances, Kivara. But we've already redefined ourselves. That is stronger than anything else they could say." Kivara's eyes reflected the distant stars. "Then we will continue, Captain. We will show them day by day, action by action, that what is true and valuable is not always visible, but it is always powerful." And as they stood there, side by side, observing the infinite expanse of stars, they knew that this was not the end of their journey. It was a beginning of collaboration, understanding, and proof that humanity, paired with trust and courage, could redefine expectations across the galaxy. The ShortStories station continued to orbit silently, the hum of energy systems a reminder of stability and progress. And for Aaron Keene and Kivara, the future was full of possibilities, boundless as the stars themselves, illuminated not by appearances, but by the enduring light of courage, trust, and understanding.